Hi, Pastor Gary from Faith Mountain Full Gospel Church. We're back again. Hey, I hope you see my thing behind me here. We're at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. Hope you got your prayers ready to go and stick in the wall there while we're here. Hey, we're ready for lesson 11 in Genesis. I hope you enjoyed the series on the armor of God. But we're getting back into the lessons on Genesis. Lots to learn. We're ready to start in on the ark. This is lesson 11, and we'll go on through these, and hopefully you'll learn a lot. I'm learning a lot through it as well, too. So let's go to the Lord as we prepare to study the Word. Heavenly Father, just ask that you open up our hearts to your Word. Lord, let us receive it in, that it might become engrafted inside of us, because your Word says that it can bring life and health to those that find it. So help us to find the life inside of the Word, because we know that is Jesus Christ. And we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, if you've got questions or comments, make sure you go to our webpage before the next lessons, and then we can respond back to those questions. And also, if you need a Bible, you don't have a personal Bible, I'd be glad to send you one free, postage paid and everything to you. You just need to get onto our website, faithmountainfullgospelchurch.org. Actually, it's faithmountainfullgospelchurch.org only. And you can go in there and you can find a place to register and click the box. Make sure you fill the information out, and we'll be glad to give you and send you a Bible as well, too. So, all right, we're ready for lesson 11. Let's get started. This is about the ark. And while God was grieved with mankind in general, there was one man, Noah, who pleased him. Therefore, God told him to make an ark to save him from the coming flood and destruction. Remember, it had not rained either on the earth. God always watered it with the dew, and so there wasn't any rain. And you can imagine there was water around, but nobody saw anything other than that. So, of course, Noah's here building an ark, and there's no water right there. So that's why they were kind of thinking kind of funny about it. But God told him to make an ark to save him from the destruction. And that's the one thing God always does, just like we read all through the Old Testament. God always saves out a remnant, even when things go wrong, just like when Lot was in Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, God saved Lot out and his daughters, and he's always trying to save a remnant of people to carry on and continue on this earth. So now we're going to look at the actual measurements of the ark. Remember, a cubit is between your elbow and your fingertips. So when you look at that, of course, everybody's is just a little different. So actual measurements will vary a little bit, but the ark was like a barge rather than a boat like what we think about today. And it was about 450 foot long. It was 70 foot broad and 45 feet high, giving it the capacity of 1,400,000 cubic feet. So if you can imagine one of our super tankers, that's about what you're looking at, something along that line. So when they're looking for the ark in Mount Ararat and stuff like that, they're still trying to find it. It was all made of wood, and it was tarred, so it probably petrified if anything was left. It would have been petrified as well, too, but it would have broke up and finally got destroyed because wood still goes bad. So you can see as many as 522 modern railroad boxcars could have fit inside. It's more space than what you think. If you've never been to the Ark in Kentucky, you can go down there and tour a replica of the Ark, and it is massive. We've got some folks going down there this weekend, and that's the 10th of August when I'm recording this. So you can look at that and think, well, maybe I need to really go see it. And, you know, everyone that's been there says it's just incredible to see how big it really is and how much space there really was. So if you could put 150 boxcars in it, okay, then you've been sufficient to house two of every air-breathing creature, including animals now living and those that are now extinct. And we've got a lot of them that we've created and made them extinct, basically. The covenant that God told Noah he would make with him in verses 6-18 related to Noah's salvation. Then we get into chapter 9 and the contrast with everything else on earth that would perish in the flood. So God told Noah, but I solemnly swear to keep you safe in the boat. So, again, there's a great testimony about God's love for those that will follow him. And that's the whole thing about it, was that God wanted people to basically follow him because he knew what was best for them. And that's the reason behind that. I'm going to shrink that print down a little bit and move it over so you can see it all. There we go. All right. So, chapter 7, Noah, his family, and the creatures. And the Lord said to Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Isn't that what we all want to hear God say to us? I see you as a righteous person. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens. Now, everybody talked about just 2 coming on board, but no. Every clean beast, there was going to be 7 of them, the male and his female, and the beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female. And that's because Noah will offer sacrifices while he's on the ark. Fowls also of the air by 7s, the male and the females, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. So here's where it talks about it's going to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. But we know that there's more than just the rain, because God is going to open up the wells of the deep. And just like today, we get water out of the ground. Yeah, water came out of the ground for them also as well too. Unfortunately, it was not a good thing at that time. And Noah did according unto all the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. Like I said, we think about 60, 70, 80, 90 years being old and can't hardly get around. Noah was 600 years old when the flood came upon the earth. It's just kind of amazing that we have lost that because of sin. We could have been living forever, and because of sin, it's been reduced. And we know in the last lesson we learned that it was reduced greater, and then after the flood, man will only live to be 120 at the most. Verse 7, and Noah went in, and his sons and his wife, with his sons' wives with him, into the ark because of the waters of the flood, of clean beasts and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of everything that creeps on the earth. There went in 2 and 2 unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same deep where all the fountains of the great deep broke up. I know, you can't really see that. And the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. So right there you can really see that it's more than what we thought. Now the fountains of the deep are going to be opened up, and we know there's enough water underneath the earth to cover the entire earth as well too. In the self same day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and his Noah's wives, and the 3 wives of his sons with him into the ark. They and every beast of his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth on the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they all went in, male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him. And the Lord shut him in. The Lord closed the door. Now, if you saw the movie Noah with I won't say his name in there, but they had another guy climbing in and getting in the ark. Guess what? Nope, didn't happen because God shut the door and nobody else came in the ark when God shut the door. So there was only those 8 people that entered in to the ark, and that's all that came off the ark other than the animals. So here's about the flood. The flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bore up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. And the waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth. And the ark went upon the face of the waters, and the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole earth were covered. Well, right there it tells you that it was not a area-wide flood, it was a worldwide flood, and everybody and everything perished on the earth. Verse 20 tells us how high. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. So 15 times about 2.5. Yeah. So that's about 45, 50 feet above the tops of the mountain, the water was. So how much water is under the earth? There's a lot of water under the earth. And that's where we, of course, we get all of our fresh water, and then it'll rain and fresh water is replenished, and then it'll go back into the ground again. And that's why we have aquifers underneath. And the city I live on, sits on a lake. So it's kind of amazing that God had all that planned so that we can have fresh drinking water. And then when it rains, it cleans it as it goes down through the earth, gets all the impurities out, goes into the underground streams and rivers and lakes, and then we can tap into it and have fresh drinking water. So all the flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl, of cattle, beast, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, and every man. Excuse me, you can imagine all the fear that came upon the people as the rains came down, and I'm sure they went over and tried to get to the boat. Of course, the waters came up so quickly that they couldn't, and the ark was lifted up. So, of course, they wouldn't have known how to swim or anything, and wouldn't have had time to learn, not that fast. So when you look at those things, you can understand that's why everybody perished. There was no way they could get onto the ark, and since God shut the door, there was no way for them to get in the door. So all in whose nostrils was the breath of life, and all that was in the dry land died. Now, a lot of people go, well, the creatures in the sea didn't die. They have the breath of life in them as well, too. So where did the fish go? I'm sure there was a place on the ark for fish as well, too. Or God had to give them special protection of what he wanted saved out of the oceans. Because we know there were large sea creatures in the beginning, and they were all destroyed. So we know that what is left now is what was left from the flood. And there's a lot of questions about that, and I don't have a real good answer for that either. You know, it doesn't really have too much to pertain with your salvation, but we know that God was going to destroy everything that had the breath of life. So when I look at that, I think it killed fish as well too, and God had fish on the ark as well too, or something for them to keep them alive as well too. So we don't know for sure, and I'm sure we could go into a deeper study and understand more of that. So verse 23, and every living substance was destroyed which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle and creeping things, the fowls of heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So we know that the flood was above the mountains about 40 feet or so for at least 150 days before it starts receding back. When you think about that, that's a long time. Did the sun shine during that? Well, if it's raining the whole time, the sunlight would not have been getting through. It would have definitely, everything would have died out. So chapter 8, the water started to subside. And God remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth. and the waters assuaged, or they proceeded to go down. And the fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. Excuse me. And the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. So we know the waters had went down enough. Now, next, the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day. And remember, what does 7 mean? It's perfection. 17th day of the month upon the Mount of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. So there's 3 more months. And in the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. And I got one more, and then that will quit on this lesson. And it came to pass on the, I got to get it where everybody can see it. There we go. And it came to pass on the end of the 40th day that Noah opened the window of the ark which he'd made, and he sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. And he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her feet, and she returned unto him in the ark. So we know there wasn't any trees or anything for the bird to light in, and that's why it had to come back. For the waters were on the face of the whole earth. And we know the waters only went down enough now for the boat to settle down on Mount Ararat and to see the tops of the mountain. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and again sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came in to him the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive tree plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. Now here you can see the ark. Now that's been 3 months after he could see the tops of the mountains, and that was 150 days. So, that's 4 months, and you got another 3 months. That's 7 months, basically, minimum, that water was on the face of the earth until it got down to where the plants started to grow again and a seedling came up. That's a long time. And you can imagine, I'm sure it took a lot of food, and there was a lot of stuff that Noah had to do to take care of all the animals. Luckily, he had his 3 sons, their wives, and his wife, and there was 8 of them to take care of. But that would still be lots and lots of animals to deal with and things. And, we may not understand all of that. It's a hard concept that God would put that upon one family, and one family would have to do all this to save mankind. But God put all the sins of the world on one man, on Jesus Christ. And that was for the sins of the whole world. And that's the incredible thing that God did. And that's why it truly says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. So, hey, we'll come back again. We'll start in on lesson 12. We'll continue on with that. Again, if you've got questions or comments, please go to our website, faithmountainfullgospel.org. And you do not have to put church in on the end of it. And you can go in there. There's all of our teachings. There's some of our messages as well. And eventually we will have a lot of the material out there for you also. We're working on that, on a way to make that available so you can have a free download of that also. Glad to have questions or comments from you. Put in your comments if you've got personal questions you want answered. I'd be glad to respond to you on a one-on-one basis. Make sure you leave me your email and your name and information, but I would be glad to get back with you. Otherwise, if there's any questions of anything, I'll try to answer them on the web on the next lessons as well. All right, we'll see you next time on lesson 12. Come on back again.